The perspective grid tool can be used to create perspective drawing in Illustrator, like this type of drawing. You can create cool looking 3D effect using this tool. The perspective grid can be activated by three options. You can either click on the perspective grid tool to activate the grid, or you can click view, perspective grid and show grid, or you can press Shift P to activate the grid. This widget at the top is the plane switching widget, which allows you to switch between different planes of the grid. By default, a two perspective grid is activated. This grid has three planes, left, right and horizontal, which can be used to draw shapes on them. These planes can be activated using this widget. So if you click on this side of the cube, the left plane becomes active. You can also press 1 on the keyboard to activate the left plane. Clicking on this side will activate the horizontal plane, or you can press 2 on the keyboard to activate it. And finally, clicking here will activate the right plane, or press 3 on the keyboard to activate it. And now if you click on this circle, this will deselect all the plane of the grid. And once you activate any plane of the grid, you can draw on it. You will notice many points on this grid which serves different purpose. So let's cover each of them individually. This circle at the extreme end can be used to change the horizon level of the grid. Just click and move up or down to change the horizon level. This circle is used to change the vanishing point. This is for right vanishing point and this is for left vanishing point. This circle can be used to move the grid itself. Just click and drag to move the position of the grid. And this circle controls the horizontal extent of the grid. And this circle at the top controls the vertical extent of the grid. The 3 points at the bottom control the position of the plane. So if you click and drag this point, you can move the left plane left or right. Similarly, clicking and dragging this point will control the right plane movement, and the bottom point control the movement of the horizontal plane either up or down. By pressing Shift key while dragging this circle will snap the movement of the right or left plane to the horizontal grid plane. And if you option click on the circle, then you will cycle between solid grid, no grid and wireframe grid. This circle is called the origin point. And finally, this circle can be used to increase or decrease the number of cells of the grid. I know there are many circles, I have to cover it, so bear with me. You can even define your own grid if you like. For this, go to View, Perspective Grid and click on Define Grid. Here you can choose among 1-point perspective, 2-point perspective, 3-point perspective, grid color, opacity or viewing angle. Now if you mess up your grid, you can reset it by going to View, Perspective Grid, 2-point perspective and 2-point normal view. Similarly, you can reset 1-point perspective or 3-point perspective. Now that you know about the intricacies of the perspective grid, let's draw some perspective art using the grid tool. So drawing on a perspective grid is same as you draw any shape in Illustrator. So let's activate the grid. Press Shift P on the keyboard. Now select the shape, let's say rectangle and choose the plane. Say I want to draw on the left plane, so click on this side of the cube or you can press 1 on the keyboard to activate the left plane. I have turned on my smart guides to help me with my drawing. If your smart guides are not on, you can press Command U to activate the smart guide, or you can go to View and click on Smart Guides. Now take the cursor to here and draw a rectangle. Similarly, I will draw a rectangle here on the right plane. If you want to adjust the shape of any object when drawing in a grid, use the Perspective Grid Selection tool and not the normal selection tool. The Perspective Grid Selection tool will keep the perspective proportion of the shape. So click and hold the mouse on the Perspective Grid tool and select the Perspective Selection tool to modify the shape. Now let's give this rectangle a color. let's say brown, and this rectangle dark brown. This will create a nice 3D effect. Now let's draw some windows on the right plane. If you use the selection tool to select and copy this window, the perspective proportion will be lost. So as I've told you, in order to keep the perspective proportion, use the perspective selection tool to select the shape or modify the shape. Now press Alt or Option key and duplicate the shape and move it to about here. Repeat this step to make all the windows. Now select all the windows and press Alt or Option key to make duplicate and move your mouse a bit forward and press 1 on the keyboard. This will activate the left plane and then place the windows here. Not only you can draw rectangle, you can draw any shape in this grid. So let's draw a circle here. And finally, to turn off the grid, when you are done drawing, you can click on this cross on the widget to deactivate the grid. You can also align text to a perspective grid. So write some text using the type tool. And now select the perspective grid selection tool and just move the text to the grid. You can choose the plane by pressing 1, 2 or 3 on the keyboard. Now I can duplicate this text by pressing Option key and move a bit and press 1 to select the left plane to paste this text here. So with this we come to the end of this video where you learn about the perspective grid tool, which can be used to create some nice looking 3D effect.